Hey guys, so I was just thinking to thinking to make a review on the new full driverless car, which I find it so awesome because it's it's another way or another type of source a person can make income in the future, just buying two, three driverless car taxi and make them work for you, and you go home and sleep. Ha ha ha! But it's pretty cool car. I mean, seriously, take a look at this car. It's pretty cool.
Hey, it's Andy with The Verge, and we just got our first exclusive look at the new autonomous vehicle from Cruise. They call it the Origin. It really didn't look like any car I've ever seen before, and that's really kind of the first impression you get as soon as you approach this vehicle. The outside of it has the same dimensions as a normal crossover SUV, but that's really kind of where the similarities end.
Isn't that cool, guys? Like a car that's 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 a whole different dimension of the world. Like you can make a people into no taxi gonna come and keep yelling on his phone, and so you just it's driverless. But what people like get really scared from, I like a um people stealing the car or something. Like how would they be protecting that kind of car? And I find this is a huge risk. I mean, like people out there in the world are not the best people in the world. Like they're funny people out there, and they would literally steal that car and rip it in 200 pieces and sell it. So I just wanted to know, like, how would they protect that car from people not stealing it? And so let's continue watching this video and see what's up.
So when you want to get into the vehicle, you first have to put in a code on this keypad that's on the door on the outside, and it sort of opens as if like it's a minivan that opens from both sides. You get in, and you have a very spacious interior of the vehicle, and that's obvious because there's no steering wheel, there's no pedals, there's no gear shaft, there's not even really a dashboard or any infotainment system. There's just two bench seats facing each other in this sort of
To be comfortable if it's shared, but if it's just you, you got so much space in here, you can really like stretch out and
Literally, guys, like, just think about it. A car. I mean, what if that car was just disrupted and had a mistake or something, and you got locked in and it's driving 100 miles per hour? I mean, like something like this. What would you do? Like something like this. What would you guys do? I mean, leave a comment down below and tell me what would you do if a car like this got you locked in and you had no ability to get out from that car, and it's driving at extreme high speed. Like, what would you guys do? Just leave that comment at the bottom. I would like to know. Let's continue watching the video.
it's pretty great. And so I think it's a good experience whether it's just you or a lot of other
do
people.
yoga in here, probably.
Absolutely, you could do yoga. Well, as long as your seatbelt's on. I don't know how that works.
Now, you may have heard of some other self-driving operators like Waymo, which used to be part of Google, and Argo, which is backed by Ford and Volkswagen. Cruise is tied very closely to GM, General Motors, which is the largest auto manufacturer in the US. Cruise has 160 self-driving test vehicles that are Chevy Bolt.
Like this one. Now it looks like how the future is shaping at a model vehicle approach. Like when you see many companies trying act at act at a certain way, like GM and Ford and Tesla and all these types of cars out there, like just all these cars try and copy each other out. You're gonna find that within 3 years or so, you're gonna find all these type of driverless cars all over the city, and it's kind of pretty cool because we go into a age that we all in the future, like literal sense of the future, more futuristic as the as that cartoon that I used to watch when I was the Robsons, I believe. Like in the Robsons, the guy still had to drive the car, and nowadays we're looking at this time, and cars are driving us to places, not we driving the car to go to a place. I find it so easy and so great. Let's keep watching the video here.
Electric vehicles here in San Francisco, where they hope to eventually launch a fully driverless robo-taxi service. But more importantly, they've raised about $7 billion in venture capital cash over the last couple of years, which is really just like a staggering amount of money for a self-driving car company, especially when you consider that they haven't even scaled a commercial product yet. Now, about $2.7 billion of that is coming from the other big auto manufacturer in Cruz's corner, and that's Honda. This doesn't look like any other car on the road.
See, I told you guys. Like another brand, Honda. Honda is making its own self-driven cars. GM is making its own self-driven cars. Ford is making its own self-driven cars. They all try and copy that model, which makes it so easy to tell that within 3 years or so we will have these cars on the roads driving for regular people who have 9 to 5 jobs. So, like, seriously, you see this? That's the future here.
And that's because Cruz says it wants to move beyond the car, arguing that many of the problems that we have today can be traced to single occupancy vehicles.
Well, there's some things about removing the driver and the steering wheel and the pedal that eliminate some complexity and cost in the vehicle. But as you can see here, the way vehicles are designed, normally they have a hood in the front where the engine is and some storage in the trunk. But when you don't need all that stuff and you don't need things placed where they are, we can have this enormous spacious cabin without taking up any more space on the road than a regular car would, which is kind of insane. It leads to a far greater experience for the rider. But then, because we built this car around the idea of not having a driver and specifically being used in a rideshare fleet, that kind of business, the vehicle is engineered to last 1 million miles, and all the interior components are replaced.
Okay, you guys hear that? 1 million miles. A self-driven, and a car that lasts up to 1 million miles. Like, now that, I mean, in our days right now, like, no car can drive up to 300,000 miles. And they say a self-driven car can drive up to 1 million miles. Also, these cars, you can also understand that these cars can be electric cars. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like these cars can be electric because in one way or other, like, that's the future. Electric cars, self-driven cars, and all that things. It's pretty awesome, in my opinion.
Replaceable, the compute is replaceable, the sensors are replaceable, and what that does is it drives the cost per mile down way low than you could ever reach.
Now, Cruz insists that this is not just a fancy concept, which is a really important distinction to make. And we've seen dozens of radical car concepts over the years that have reimagined interiors that look like fancy living rooms or bedrooms, but none of those really have any chance of hitting the road anytime soon, if ever. Cruz says that this car is going into production, but it's going to be tough getting there. Cruz needs a special exemption from the federal government in order to mass produce vehicles without
another opinion here. I mean, the government gotta get themselves into such a situation, but I get understanding why. Because you don't want self-driven cars be hitting the regular people, because people are really stupid sometimes and they gotta drive drunk or high and they don't know what they do. When when a self-driven car approach these cars, they find themselves in a bad situation. That's just my opinion. But I just want to say that's all for now. If you guys really want me to continue talking about this video, just click like and I will make a second part of this video because I feel like this video is getting really long. So I see you guys in my next video. If you guys like this video, click like so that I make another part and subscribe to follow me and see all my videos. Thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.